Welcome to our mantra breathing today. We're so happy to have you with us. And the theme of our talk is how to live longer gladly in a state of joy.
Right. So there is the possibility available for physical immortality, which means you can live as long as you want to while improving your body. Now, we're not talking about living in an old, decrepit body when you're 105 years old, obviously. Okay. So what would be the advantage of that? That's what I'm going to go over today. And it's mainly merging your body with spirit, with mind and spirit. Now, there was a yogi I met in India, and he gave me a condensed version of physical immortality. I never forgot it. It's so good. He said, spirit is that which cannot be destroyed. A spirit is out there. It's a life force. You can never destroy it. Mind is condensed spirit. Body is condensed mind. Therefore, body is utmost spirit. Now, that is so brilliant. If you get what I said right there, you can understand physical immortality. However, if you think you're separate from God, you'll never get this point, okay? So most people think they're separate from God because they took a body, and they are all stuck on the thought death is inevitable, as we talked about last time. And the death urge is the cause of all of our problems. It kills off our life force, and it causes all of our problems. And everybody's hanging on to the death urge, as we talked about that. Now, even Jesus was teaching physical mortality in the Bible. He said, I tell you this truth, whoever holds fast to my teaching shall never enter the grave. Okay. And so in the Course in Miracles, he talks a lot about this and how death is not your will and God's will, that death is a result of a thought. Death is a result of a thought called the ego, just as surely as life is a result of a thought called God. So he talks a lot about this in the Course in Miracles. Now people say, well, isn't this some kind of ego trip that you want to, live so long? No. Why would you want to do it? Because you have a mission here of service. It's a selfless dedication to a mission of divine service, right? So that if you're here and you're seeing work as worship and you're into service and you have a happy relationship and you feel good, you might want to stick around and serve. Now, you're not saying I want to live to be 150 so I can brag that I made it. That's not the purpose at all. Now, what are the advantages of giving up the death urge and choosing longevity? And we're talking about giving up the thought death is inevitable. You have immediately increased health when you do this, because all problems in the body and health are due to the unconscious death urge and fear. You have increased energy. A lot of people say, I'm running out of energy, I'm getting old, I'm tired. That's just their death urge talking. You have increased creativity. You have increased quality of life. You have increased potential for regeneration and rejuvenation, increased fun, increased joy, increased intelligence, and imagine feeling better than you ever felt. When you give up your death urge, you start feeling really good. So those are all the advantages, and it's worth it to go for this, just to feel those wonderful results. So it is actually easier to continue to live than to die because life is natural. You have to indulge in a lot of negativity to kill yourself. And all death is suicide. Remember that. All death is suicide. People kill themselves with their own thoughts. And they accumulate more negative thoughts and accumulate more negative thoughts, and they suppress them and suppress them. And because they're not doing breathing, they keep suppressing them. And then finally, the body can no longer clear itself. That's when the body dies, when it can no longer clear itself. So that's what everybody's doing out there, is suppressing everything instead of doing what you guys are doing, which is breathing.
Yeah, and the purpose of the breathing is so you can feel good. And this is very important for longevity, because you can't have longevity feeling bad. Because if after a while you keep developing this habit of feeling bad, it's contributing to your death urge, and you're going to get sick, and then you're going to want to check out because you feel bad. And that's not what we're about. We're about breathing into feeling good. And even this is like, we want to make it clear. The purpose of mantra breathing is to feel good. And that's what we're doing here. We're breathing into this frequency of feeling good, being in a state of joy, being in a positive place where we have something to give, we have something to contribute, and this contribution to the people around us are uplifting humanity, and that's our divine service. So it's all like a movement of feeling good, more happiness, more joy, more life urge, more health, more prosperity. Some of you mentioned that in your intention. More flow, more value. When you're valuable to others, people want to pay you for your services. So, and the more joyful you are, the more value you have for others.
Now, if you choose not to go for it, then you just have to die and reincarnate and die and reincarnate and die and reincarnate. How many times do you want to do that? How many times do you want to go through a birth trauma again, another set of parents, school system, and all that, right? So I honor you guys for being here, because that means you're open to the alternative, which is called ascension. Okay, so first of all, you have to master the philosophy of it, the psychology of it, and the physiology of it. So I'll just say briefly what that is. The philosophy of it means you already are pure spirit, but you should read the books to get the whole philosophy. And I suggest you read our book, Physical Immortality, How to Overcome Death. We can't possibly cover this topic in 15 minutes. We wrote a whole book on it. And if you read the whole book, maybe read it out loud, it will help you get into this state that we're talking about. Okay, the psychology of it is, we talked last time, you have to unravel your personal death urge, and you have to do that through prayer and breathing and so on.
And last week we talked about the three main blocks to longevity, and those were our belief that we're separate from the source. We don't connect with our source. We have this kind of amnesia. We're not connected to our source. That's one. Two, the belief that death is inevitable. That's a thought. That's just a thought that everybody has. Oh, eventually your body's going to wear out and you have to die. And we don't have any experience of having control over that, but we're saying you have total control over that. But you have to give up this thought, death is inevitable. Then the third thing is your personal lie, and we work with people in their private sessions with us, breathwork sessions, on uncovering that. What is your most negative thought factor you have about yourself? And that we call your personal lie. So those three things, if you can overcome those, the belief in death being inevitable, your imagined separation from your source, and this personal lie, you've done well in unraveling the unconscious death urge. Those are the three main parts.
Okay, so that was about the philosophy and psychology. Now the physiology of it, you have to be aware of your body is an energy system. And notice what people raise your energy, what people lower your energy, what places, what foods. Whatever raises your energy is what you want to do. Whatever lowers your energy, don't do it, okay?
Yeah, and I think this very simple philosophy Sandra gave, spirit is that which cannot be destroyed, mind is condensed spirit, body is condensed mind. You got to get the order right. It's like the Course in Miracles says, your identity is spirit. So you're like an idea. You're a thought in the mind of God. And then as you descend into matter, you have a mind, you have a body, but you got to get that order right, because at spirit level, there's no problem. It's, we can all imagine, oh yeah, spirit's immortal. And maybe we can imagine the mind's immortal, but then when we get down to the body, some thoughts have gone in there that have separated us from the spirit, and that's where we get the problems. So you got to clean it up kind of from the ground up, but you got to get the order right. Your identity is spirit, and then your mind is aligned with that identity of spirit, and the joy that goes with that. And then you maintain the joy, and then you maintain the health in the body. So it's like it's like an order. You have to keep the order. So when you're not feeling good, you got to process the mind. What are my thoughts that are making me feel bad? What are my thoughts that are giving me this pain in my elbow? You've got to process it. So you've got to reverse that and clean it up.
Okay, I'll just cover the steps to physical immortality briefly, and then I'll mention ascension, and then we'll breathe. So the steps are, first, you immerse yourself in the philosophy. So what we did at the beginning of rebirthing, we read nothing but books on physical immortality for a year, which was brilliant to strengthen our life urge. So every time you read a book on physical immortality, you're going to strengthen your life urge, and it's going to push out your health problems. The more you study this topic, the more it pushes out your health problems. Number 2, unravel your personal death urge, which we just mentioned. That's where you study what your parents and grandparents died of and what condition, and you choose not to go in alignment with that. 3 is body mastery. You keep raising the vibration and frequency of your body through breath work and the right thinking. 4, this is important. You have to stay in a state of love, praise, and gratitude. Those are what we call the ascension attitudes. 5, you have to know this is real for you. You don't say, well, I believe in it, possibly. No, if you want to do it, you have to know that it's real for you. Knowing, which means total faith.
Yeah, I like that story where your mother said to you, Sandra, can you not talk so certainly about physical immortality?
Don't act like you're so certain of it, you said.
Yeah.
I said, if I don't, I'll never make it, Mom.
Yeah, so if you don't get certainty around this subject, you're probably not going to make it, because you're going to believe the opposite is true. So yeah, certainty is very important in this subject. You've got to embrace it, and you've got to immerse your mind in it, and you've got to think about it from all different angles. And nobody's making you think this way, but you can change your mind, is basically it. You can change your mind on this whole subject of life and death.
You do have to go through death of the ego, actually, instead of your body. But the ego is a false self you made up to compete with God. So we want to let go of the ego anyway, but death is the result of a thought called the ego. So this is why you need to study the Course in Miracles to help you let go of the ego. So those are the 6 steps. Now I'll just mention ascension, and then it's time to breathe. So we're on the path of ascension. Breath work is the path of ascension. Every time you have a session, you go to a higher frequency, and your biology actually ascends. So, the 3rd dimension, by the way, if you keep indulging in that, you will die like everybody else. The 3rd dimension, if you want to know what it is, just watch a lot of TV. It's all 3rd dimensional. Struggle, pain, death, conflict, fear. And, so be careful how much TV you watch.
Yeah, it's a belief that conflict's inevitable. When you take your marriage vows, they always tell you, oh, you've got to accept the fact in sickness and in health till death do you part. Well, we're programming all that stuff into us when we say those kinds of things. So this idea that conflict is just a natural part of life, that we have to question that. And I think if you're with this group, you are questioning it, because that's one of our major philosophies, that you can have a loving relationship, free of all conflict. There should not be conflict. There should not be sickness.
Okay, so the 3rd dimension is where our families were all stuck, and we started becoming New Age people, and we kind of went to the 4th dimension, and that was better. At least there was self-love, and people were working on themselves, but the answers are still not there. You have to go to the 5th dimension, which is Christ consciousness. Now, of course, the Course in Miracles is all Christ consciousness. That's why I say, if you're not reading it, you should at least be sleeping with it in your bed, So ascension is going to the 5th dimension, and at that level, you become kind of ageless anyway. That's one of the results, and it's miracle consciousness. So you cannot ascend if you hang on to fear, guilt, and anger, of course. I'm sure you figured that out. So life without death is pure life. So you're kind of in a constant state of rebirthing in this new vibration. It's a progressive movement into divine truth, and it comes in stages. So anyway, I just want to remind you, the ability to live a long life comes when the body's not forced to do something it doesn't want to do. So-
Yeah. And you have to have a commitment to happiness. You know, one of the lessons in the course says God's will for me is perfect happiness. It's lesson 101. And now when we said how to live longer gladly, what we mean by that is you have to be glad to live long. Happiness and living long go together. Joy and longevity go together. You can't separate the two, because if you're depressed, eventually you're going to punish yourself with some kind of illness, and it's going to catch up with you. So it's your responsibility to maintain your happiness, and only you can know what that is, what's not producing happiness in your life. And you have to clean that up. You have to let go of that. And if it's relationships, you have to maybe let go of some relationships and be in the relationships that are fostering good feelings, fostering happiness, fostering positivity. You have to make those changes in your life, you know?
Well, I really acknowledge you guys for being open to this topic that you came today. You know, even Babaji talked about this, but most people didn't hear him. One night he said, anybody that wants physical immortality, you go down by this fire, by the river, and you meditate all night and say this mantra. So I grabbed my stuff and I went down there, and there was only one other person and me. I couldn't believe it. I said the next day, why didn't you guys come with me? They didn't even know what I was talking about. They didn't even hear Babaji say that. See, that's how closed most people are. They don't even hear this topic or the possibility of this topic. Or if they do, they don't want it because their life is hell. Well, they don't want to keep living in hell. Well, one of the reasons they are in hell is they never cleared their death urge. So it's actually the other way around. But they say, I don't want to live a long time. I'm going to get out of here, you know. But they want to get out of here because they're stuck in the death urge. Okay, so
she's always saying okay, but I always have more stuff to say. So there's this lesson in the course. It's lesson 163. You should all read it. If you're studying the course already, you probably read it before. It says, there is no death. The Son of God is free. That is it. Lesson 163. There is no death, the Son of God, which is you. Like, you know, that's another thing the course corrects. Everyone is a son of God, not just Jesus. Now, Jesus mastered it. He mastered that part. So he didn't have anything other than his consciousness of being the Son of God. I mean, we have an ego. He didn't have an ego. So he's mastered it. He's totally let go of the ego. But we're sons of God and daughters of God too. So there is no death when you reach that state of awareness. The Son of God is free. And then it says, be careful, because when you're feeling like resentment or anger or, hang on a second. When you're feeling resentment or anger or a negative emotion or just irritation, mild irritation, that's all part of your death urge, right? So those negative emotions, those negative feelings are all contributing to your ultimate demise. So you need to catch yourself when you're going into those moods, those feelings, and correct them. And I like the way Esther Hicks gives a scale of feelings, right? And it's from despair down at the bottom up to appreciation and joy. And there's this whole scale. And she says, well, you have to be honest about where you are on the scale. But then once you see, oh, I'm at doubt, I'm at despair, or I'm at anger, you have to be willing to go up the scale, to raise your frequency, to raise your feeling. And that's your responsibility. We're not only responsible for our thoughts, we're responsible for the feelings that those thoughts make in us. So we have to be responsible for how we're feeling. And this feeling of joy or feeling good, it's like the natural state of divine awareness is peace and joy. So if we're not in that peace and joy, then there's something in our mind, in our self that we have to correct. And there's no guilt involved with that. It's an innocent process, but we have to be honest about it. So we have to go up this scale of feeling into joy, appreciation, happiness, those kinds of feelings. And that's very important with longevity.
Okay, can lie down?
So I think that's it.
Yeah, well, let's lie down and then I'll read a little poem.
All right.
After they lie down.
So let's get ready for the breathe now. I'm going to play 30 minutes of Om Namah Shivaya, and then I'm going to put on these chants of heaven that go for about 28 minutes.
And they're very, very beautiful. I think you're going to love it.
Good. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Read this prayer from
Okay.
Robert. It's a poem from Robert.
Okay. Oh, and we've talked about this author before. He's actually a friend of Sandra's. His name is Robert Coon, Coon, and you can get his books on the internet. They're all about immortality. I'm not sure. I think you can probably get them on Amazon, but there's this other platform. I'm sorry, I forget the name of it. But you can just Google Robert Coon and you'll find his books.
Yeah, everybody can lie down now. While you're lying down, I'll just tell you that I went to Glastonbury the first time, Glastonbury, England, and there's this hill called the Tor, which is very famous. And somebody told me there was a ceremony up there at midnight. Well, it started raining, so only one person came up with me. We had to climb fences, and so we get up there, and it's dark and it's dreary, and all of a sudden I saw this guy sitting there. He looked like an Elizabethan poet. His hair was kind of flowing in the breeze, kind of long hair. And he was actually saying this when I came up to the hill. I call forth all the immortals of the world. Before he even saw me, he was saying that in general. And I couldn't believe it. I talk about a destined connection, right? I ran up to him, I said, here I am, and I kissed him, and I said, please come and teach my class tomorrow. I just surrendered like that. And he told us how he was meditating one time on his bed, and Elijah from the Bible materialized to him in the air, just like Babaji does, floating in the air 4 hours, and transmitted to him the knowledge of physical immortality. So that's the true story.
Yeah, that platform is called Lulu. His books are published on this platform called Lulu, Lulu, and he's got a number of them on immortality. And I would say any book you buy by Robert Coon is fantastic.
Yeah, and I would start with our book though, so you get the basics.
Yeah.
He doesn't really explain the basics. He goes way out there with.
No, he's more of a poet. He's more of a mystic, and it's not. His writing is more mystical.
Yeah.
So our books are a little more practical. Think about this, do this. Here's the thing you have to handle. A, B, C, kind of like that. So our book on physical immortality would be a good starter.
Okay, so while you start breathing now, everybody take 10 deep breaths in your upper chest and keep the breath moving.
Yeah.
Circular, smooth breathing, no pause.
No holding at the top, no holding at the bottom. Circular and smooth.
Gordon, probably take off your glasses, okay?
Take a big inhale. Pull the breath up into your heart chakra, your upper chakra area, lung area, heart chakra area. Pull the breath up and then relax and let the breath go. And when you get to the bottom, pull the breath up to the heart chakra. When you get to the top, start releasing, let go. Let the breath just float out. Don't blow it. Don't force it. Just let gravity take the exhale out. So pull the breath up and then just let go.
Okay, so this is a little poem by Robert. And you pull on the inhale, inhaling life. Exhale the death. Inhale life, exhale death. Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldest do. Breathe on me, breath of God, until my heart is pure, until with thee I have only will to do, to endure. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine. Pretty, huh?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'll read it in my voice, so you get to hear it twice. Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love and do what thou wouldst do. Breathe on me, breath of God, until my heart is pure, until with thee I have only will to do and to endure. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine. Yeah, so there we go. This is the true yoga, you know? What are you joining? That's what the meaning of yoga means, joining, yoking together. Well, you're joining your individual will with the will of the universe, with God's will. That's the true yoga. So that's what this breath is all about. It's about joining your will, making your will one with the universal will, which is immortal life. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is immortal life. And there is no death. That's something the ego made up. So getting that clarity, that's the ultimate yoga. And that's what mantra breathing is offering.